Hello, welcome. Oh man, it's been a while, hasn't it? Let me just quickly close this out. So, I know this is a day late, effectively. I was busy. I was not actually around to do this recording before, but hey, I'm here to do our bi-weekly patch notes. Is bi-weekly twice a week or once every 2 weeks? Is bi-monthly twice a month or once every 2 months? I'm not sure. Anyway, we're for 25.21 for League of Legends. As you can see, Biko. Nice. All right, so let's get into it. Worlds is currently underway, and it comes on at a weird time, so I kind of only catch snippets of it because it's on so late. For me, it's like 4 in the morning, so I don't particularly catch it. But here we go. What's this? New battle pass, blah, 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 blah. If you don't mind me ranting for a second, it makes me wonder what they're going to do with the exalted skins when they come back. Like, I really feel like at this point, they should just throw the exalted skins into the, like, after they have their first little run as a gacha thing, bring them back, maybe like a year later, and just throw them into the mythic shop for like 200 mythic essence. Because at this point, like, you have to buy multiple battle passes. So if they like 200, 250 mythic essence, you can force people to play the game long term. Where it's like, oh, I have to buy the next 4 or 5 battle passes, and then I can maybe afford my cool exalted skin that's been out for a year and a half already. Anyway, whatever. Little rant aside, I'm not going to worry about the battle pass. ARAM Mayhem. That's a cool new thing that's getting added. For anyone who has not been paying attention, ARAM Mayhem is ARAM, but it has augments like Arena or TFT. I'm going to be playing some of that. I'm going to be making a few videos on that. It's going to be fun. Practice tool updates. If you don't own all the champs, you can practice champs in the practice tool now without buying them. That's a nice little update. So first, Bard. Really? Bard. We're pretty happy with Bard's current balance state, but would like to open up some more options, namely building AP items. So the minimum heal, 25 to 125. Still the same, but plus 10% on the AP ratio on the heal. Wow. Up to 70% bonus AP. Holy crap. Movement speed. Also increased by 1% based on your AP. Ooh, Lord, I cannot wait to start running into Shurelya's Lichbane Bard in my ranked games. Diana. Monster damage down 20%. Really? I have not seen Diana jungle. Maybe I'm too low elo. Dr. Mundo. Armor growth, really, actually, up by 0.8. That's a lot. That's an extra 8 armor level 10. I mean, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a lot. Especially for a champion that has a bad early game like Dr. Mundo, getting any changes to base stats like armor growth is a much bigger deal than you think. An extra point of armor goes a long way in laning phase when you're a champion that has a historically weak early game. Minimum active damage. 2% less bonus HP. I mean, that really just affects his scaling. So his E is going to be doing significantly less damage later on after he gets a couple items. Looking for power neutral adjustments, take away late game burst and give back late game durability. Yeah. So a little extra durability in the form of armor. That's a good change if you ask me. Since Mundo scales with HP, you give him a little bit more durability in the form of his armor to make him a little harder to kill, but also cut his damage slightly. Not bad. Ezreal, attack damage growth increased. Low performer lately, especially at lower ranks. A little bit of general power to help keep up as games go late. Yeah, because they can't land skill shots. So you compensate by giving them more damage for the hits they do land. Okay, I mean, fine. I'm not against Ezreal being strong. Graves. We'd like to note Graves back towards having a strong sustained fight pattern. So they actually just changed Graves recently in the last patch. I can't quite remember what they did, but they were trying to pull him away from being like a lethality burst champion into more of a bruiserish fightering kind of champion. So less magic resist, less armor growth. Oh, but quick draw. His dash, as you all know, him dashing gives armor. It now gives 50% of that as bonus magic resist. Interesting. At first I was like, this is just a nerf losing MR, but now he gains MR. Up to 64 when he maxes his E. Wow. If you can catch him before he's able to stack up, he's more burstable. But if he's able to play the fight out the way he wants, he'll grow to the sustained monster we all know and hate love. Interesting. So they really are pulling Graves away from the he wants to be in and out as an assassin sort of champion, and they're really pushing him towards playing more like a bruiser. That is very interesting. What worries me is that like he's gonna start like edging in the top lane a little bit, but we'll see. Gwen. So I heard that they reverted Gwen. Let's see. 25 health back, 25 health growth back. Cut the attack speed growth a little bit. 1,000 cuts. Higher. Small step damage. Higher. Oh, 3%. Holy shit. Armor growth and magic resist. Increased. Yeah, she gets back the scaling per level. Cooldown. Less early. Skip and slash. So now it's a flat 15, but with less scaling. Cooldown. Longer, actually. Cooldown refund. Starts lower, but scales up to be higher. Needlework. 30 to 8% is now up to 95 plus 10%. And the slow. More early. Dude. Enjoy your Gwen's day tomorrow. I was just about to say, I think Gwen is back. Just like that. Like, actually, she is back. Just from, like, her passive and Q alone. Reverting some of her changes. I mean, is this the answer to Scion? Is that what the purpose of this is? Is Scion too successful? And so they brought Gwen back? Armor growth is a little longer and her jungle levers are a little weaker. 2 changes weren't reverted because she was a little too strong and top. I mean, I guess. This really feels like the... If I'm going to be honest with you, this really feels like there's too much Scion and too much K'Sante. So let's buff Gwen. Or revert Gwen in this case. But still, that's what this feels like to me. Because, you know, like, Sion's like one of the best top laners right now. K'Sante is too, especially in high levels of play. Like, you see Sion and K'Sante, for example, every single match at Worlds. So you bring Gwen back, and she's going to curb stomp both those champions and get banned every game. Oh, man. I'm a little scared, but we'll see how it plays out. I think Gwen is back. Kalista. Kalista's been underperforming. Dude, you know it's so funny? I feel like Kalista dropped off the face of the earth after her performance at MSI. Right? Like, Kalista Renata on paper was supposed to be, like, one of the most powerful bot lane duos in the game. And then, like, she just kind of crapped the bed and was one of the worst performing ADCs ever. And then I never saw her again. I didn't see her in solo queue. You don't see her in pro play. Nothing. But there you go. 0.5 in her attack damage growth. So an extra half a damage per level. Not bad. I don't think this is going to change anything, but they're trying to nudge Kalista back being played so they can tell people she's playable. Kog'Maw is one of the winningest bot laners in the game and also has lost his old identity as a scaler. So passive attack speed from Caustic Spittle. 10 to 30 is now 5 to 25. So a 5% nerf across the board. Yeah, so this is definitely a cut down on like the Kog'Maw trade poke strategy. So that he keeps his identity as being the champ that buys 3-4 items and then melts everything in the game. I can see that. Morgana. Oh yeah, Morgana. Morgana mid's been super popular as of late. Armor growth down by 0.8. That's pretty significant. So this is to make Morgana more vulnerable. Right? Especially to assassins. Because Morgana's one of the champs that always buys Azanias no matter what. Right? So she's always going to have a meaningful amount of armor anyway. Even if she's not against any AD, she's going to buy the Zanyas anyway. Because it just synergizes too well. Especially when she gets an ult off. So yeah, this makes sense to me. This makes her a little bit more vulnerable. Especially early on before she finishes the Zonias. Because it's not like she buys the Zonias first. It's like her second or third item, right? So a little bit less armor growth means that a lot of the AD heavy champions, especially assassins, have a bigger window to punish her early and kill her. So yeah, that's a meaningful nerf. It makes sense. Kiana! One of the clear winners from the recent changes to Profane Hydra and Axiom Arc. Of course she has been. Health growth down slightly to make her a little squishier. 3 health per level. Elemental Wrath, Edge of Ixtal. So this is her Q. 70 through 190 plus 90 is now 70 through 190 plus 80. So minus 5% AD, and she's a little squishier. Okay. I feel like that's going to be a placebo nerf, if anything. I still feel like this champ's going to be a monster at higher levels of play. Just because of the outplay potential, if anything. Right, she can make some magic happen. Quinn has been one of the winningest top laners for a while now. So please. Nerfing both Dorans Shield and Second. That's a spoiler. Okay, Dorans Shield and Second Wind got nerfed this patch. I'm already upset. So they're nerfing Quinn because they've nerfed top lane sustain. I feel like she needed a nerf in general. 65 through 205 plus 120. 65 through 205 plus 100. Okay, minus 20% is pretty huge on the Q. Her ult, 70% total AD is now 120 plus 30. Okay. Okay. Those are some huge nerfs. I like that. Yone, attack damage increased by 2. We just can't leave the wind shitters alone for a second, can we? Keep it moving. Yunara. We're here to buff Yunara today as she's still relatively new. Over 2/3 of her games are played by inexperienced players, substantially dragging down her win rate. Even after accounting for that fact, she's still weaker than the average bot laner. We want to improve the value of ability ranks. We want to make her more consistently mobile. I don't like that second part. Adjusting like the ability damage of one of her less popular abilities is fine, I think. Since you can reward people for playing around this. It's a skill shot. Right? This is like actually some of her utility as well. So this makes sense to me. I don't know how I feel about buffing mobility on a vulnerable carry champion. That sounds like a recipe for pain and suffering for the rest of us. Initial damage, 5 through 105 plus 85 is now 55 through 250 plus 85. Damn. An extra 50 at level 1. And an extra 110 at max. Damage per second, 5 through 65 plus 40 is now 33 through 129 plus 51. Damn. Okay. Those are some huge changes. I'm okay with this, though, because it's a slow-moving skill shot, and it's one of the things she needs to play around in order to kite people properly. So I think this change is fine if you want to buff this champion. Same with the Transcendent W, right? What's that? An extra 200 damage base, but a little less scaling. Again, I think that's fine. Here's where I get worried. Conmay Steps. This is her mobility. I always get worried when carry champions get a buff to mobility. Right? Because it makes them a little less vulnerable. And, you know, we've all seen how scary that can be, especially on, like, Zeri, for example. When Zeri was, like, one of the strongest bot laners in the game because she just got infinite movement speed to go with her carry potential. And it got so bad, it was to the point where people were just building tank items. Remember that Trinity Force Titanic Hydra Zeri? Anyway, whatever. I'm not going to get too in on it, but movement speed, 30 plus 50, decaying over 1.5. Okay, so instead of decaying over the duration, it decays after the duration. So the way this worked was you get the burst of movement speed right away and it decays slowly. Now, however, you get the full second and a half of the full movement speed and then it starts to decay. Same thing with the movement speed towards enemies. Okay. Cooldown's a little longer though. Okay, you know what? I think that change is okay. Without having seen the actual change, I thought they were just going to give her more movement speed, which I thought was going to be a problem. But if you're just extending the movement speed a little bit and forcing her to be aggressive with it, I think that's fine. All right, down to items. Catalyst of Eons. Less HP. I guess that makes sense. Rod champions kind of get a little too tanky a little too early before they even finish the rod. So for a scaling item, they kind of don't need to have such a huge stack stick right away. I can believe that. Dorans Blade. 3% lifesteal removed. Heal for 2.5% of damage dealt. Reduce 33% for area of effect. Okay, so Dorans Blade gives Omnivamp instead of lifesteal now. How do we feel about that? I mean, sure. The problem with Dorans Blade, first of all, despite being... The first problem with Dorans Blade is that it's the worst of the Dorans items. The second problem with it is that, like, the issue with the whole Omnivamp setup with it is that a lot of the Omnivamp that you would get from abilities, you don't get the full value, obviously, on AoE, but most abilities that take advantage of this are kind of AoE, you know? So the champs that really went out for this are champs with a lot of single target abilities. So there are going to be some champs who really like this, but other champs who are kind of like, eh. We'll see how it plays out. I still think the Dorans Blade is kind of just like a terrible item in general. It's okay when you feel confident that you can be aggressive in the lane. But it's not really great overall. Doran's Ring. Mana regen. 1.25 per second is now 1 per second, increased to 2 after damaging an enemy champ. Health regen. 0.55%. 45% of mana regenerated value. Interesting. Current tuning for some starter items. Second one can make it feel pointless to attempt to harass. These changes were attempting to nudge back towards poke being more valuable. Yeah, so what they're trying to do here is you don't get a whole lot of the same base mana regen, less base mana regen, but actually hitting your opponent and trading aggressively gives you more mana regen. And that extra mana regen also affects your health regen. So if you're hitting your opponent over and over, you're getting more mana and more HP for being aggressive. I kind of like that change. I'm not going to lie. It kind of makes people want to be more aggressive with the item. I think it's still going to be absolutely horrible dealing with it when you're against something like Aurora, which is just going to make everyone top lane upset. As a top laner, I'm just speaking from experience. Dealing with Aurora with changes like this is going to be absolutely terrible because that champ is only hitting you the whole time. So yeah, aside from Aurora being the most devastating thing to deal with top lane, I think that's a good change. Dorans Shield. Max healing after taking damage is now 40. Okay, -5. That's not as bad as I thought. But then you have to compare it with Second Wind. 3 plus 4% is now just 4%. Okay, it's not worthless. Okay, it's not worthless. It's not good. It's not as good, obviously, but it's not worthless. A little bit less base healing sucks. Because this is Dorans Shield Second Wind is mainly to get you through the early game against poke lanes. Right? So once again, using Aurora as an example, I'm playing an immobile melee champion top lane. I'm dealing with Aurora top lane. She's hitting me the entire time. There's no point to me even attempting to trade back against her. Because she's going to deal half my health and damage. I'm getting less regeneration, less sustain from this overall. She forces me out of lane more consistently and gets rewarded for it. And also you buffed Gwen. So I'm very, very concerned about the power shift here between Doran's Ring and Dorans Shield. I think this makes sense mid lane. I think this is going to be horrific top lane. Because I feel like the purpose of this was to stop champions like from mid lane from ignoring poke forever. But top lane, it's feeling like a permaban Aurora angle. Aurora with a Doran's Ring and you're playing a melee champ with Dorans Shield that normally take Dorans Shield Second Wind, it's just going to be so goddamn painful. Brawl mode extension. Okay, Brawl's going to be live for a little longer. Cool. Sanctum item. Genesis Nightbringer Yasuo will be entering the Sanctum. Great. Back to my earlier point how I started this episode. If you're going to be putting stuff like this in the Sanctum, I'm just saying you might as well put Sanuzal in the Mythic shop. Right? And just make him 250 Mythic Essence. At this point, you might as well. New Nexus finisher. I actually like this Nexus finisher. This goes with like the lore Zoe skin that's on the way. And then a plethora of bug fixes, and then these are the new skins. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for the patch notes. We're on the shorter side this time around, but there are some controversial changes here. I'm not going to lie. The nerf to Dorans Shield Second Wind is painful, and it's even more painful with the buff to Doran's Ring. And it's mainly Aurora. It's mainly Aurora that's messing with my head here. But who knows? Maybe I'm overreacting. A lot of these changes actually felt really good though, right? Like Kiana makes sense. Morgana makes sense, right? Making these champions more vulnerable before they hit their huge power spikes just makes sense to me. But Gwen's going to be scary. Aurora's going to be scary. I like these changes to Graves because I feel like this is actually a really smart change to give him power in a different roundabout way to reward him for playing more slowly, more patiently, and building up and playing fights well. Because this just means like if the Graves plays the fight really well and is skilled, he gets rewarded heavily for it. Right. So I like the way this patch is looking for the most part. I'm a little scared for how the changes are going to happen top lane with Gwen and some of these item changes. But we'll see, right? Patch is on the shorter side today. I like it. I do like it though. I don't get me wrong. I do like it. We're not going to look at TFT this time because like I said, I've been away for a little while. I've actually not played any TFT. I need to play more TFT and get back into it so that I can form a good opinion of any changes they might be making. But until then, yeah, I'm going to catch you guys next time. Our next episode will probably be some Aram Mayhem, which I may or may not play with some friends, and then we're going to record that just to see how it feels. But anyway, that's going to do it for now. Thanks again. I will catch y'all next time. Peace.